All right, welcome to Master the Game. I'm Juice, and tonight we're going to be talking about GenCon a little bit. I know I just did a video all about my GenCon experience, and there were things I didn't even talk about. There were, a lot of different things there. So yeah, and then on top of that, if you guys had any questions about GenCon or any of that, I would like to be able to answer that for you. If there's time, and if I'm still feeling like it, we might discuss the new player's handbook a little bit at the end of this. But if we don't get around to that, just know there will be content coming to the channel about this. So we've got some ideas for some videos for that, and we will definitely cover the player's handbook all this month. In fact, it's going to be a heavy focus of the channel. But back to GenCon, one of the things I experienced was a new tabletop RPG that should be coming out, I believe, by the end of the year or next year sometime. And I'm really excited to do more with that. And that would be the Cool Name RPG, or Cool Name Goes Here, by Mark Tassin and Mechanical Muse. That was a Kickstarter that was done in wake of the OGL disaster last year now. So that is something I would like to talk about more. I will probably stream it on this channel. I've actually talked to Mark about possibly running a game of it on this channel, because I think it's a really cool one that I believe if people give that game a shot, then they will learn to love it. It really lends itself well to streaming, in my opinion. The system doesn't get in the way of role play. In fact, it encourages very creative solutions to things. So that is something I would also like to do maybe a video or two on in this month as well. So GenCon. GenCon for me was really a last minute thing. I have been one time before this year. I went back in 2017. Thanks to Cody from Taking 20. He actually took me. I picked him up at the airport, stayed in his hotel with him, and, all of that good stuff. My father had passed away day one, 30 minutes before the door opened, so that kind of soured the experience for me back in 2017, and I just hadn't been back. I did have a good time, all things considered back then, but it definitely put a damper on things. Since then, I've been trying to figure out a way to go back. My wife is a gamer. She's the one who got me into Dungeons and Dragons. I had played tabletop RPGs before all of that, but when I met her and moved in with her, I saw that she had D&D books. She saw that I had some other games, and so that's actually what got me playing Dungeons and Dragons specifically. She's the one in our household who always wants to play board games or try board games. I like board games, but it's never a thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to play a bunch of board games and, stuff like that. So when I went to GenCon in 2017, I told her she would have a blast. We have to figure out a way to get her there. And a few years passed in, real life, right? You had COVID in 2020. That was a year we were thinking about going to the Nerdarchy convention. We were thinking about, obviously, going to GenCon and other things, and COVID hit out of nowhere. A few months ago, we were talking about possibly trying to go to GenCon. I was like, hey, it'd be really cool if we could get the kids taken care of, and let's go to GenCon. She seemed cool with it, but we didn't really put any plans in motion. It was kind of one of those things where it's like you talk about doing something, but then you don't follow through. I made a Facebook post, though, I don't know, maybe a month before GenCon, saying, oh, it'd be really cool to go to GenCon, who's going, yada, 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 and, wanted to know what everyone was planning on doing, just to kind of get a feel for things. And Mark from Mechanical Muse reached out to me and said that he had extra tickets that he could give away and was offering me some. I jumped at that opportunity. I talked to my wife. I said, hey, can we get something going here in the next couple weeks? Can we commit to getting the kids taken care of, our dog? And we have 3 kids of varying ages. Our dog is an older dog who has not been away from us for very long. And then we also had to figure out a hotel. We had to figure out if she could get time off at work. It was a lot to kind of do in a very small amount of time. I talked to some coworkers, one of which who was going. He offered me a spot at his Airbnb. where I think they had 5 different rooms, him and his different friends. I barely knew him, so I didn't really want to take him up on that. He had his friends going, none of which I knew. So I just thought, maybe that doesn't work out. We checked some hotel prices about 20-30 minutes out, and honestly, it made sense to just get a hotel room rather than pay the same amount to stay in an Airbnb with him. And so that's what we did. We stayed in Carmel, Indiana, which pretty much was a straight shot into the convention. We got everything else set up. I originally wanted to leave Wednesday morning to go to GenCon, but because of how things were set up, we were only able to get the kids taken care of at about noon. So we got all that squared away. We got to GenCon I would say our hotel room at about 4 or 5. Might have even been 6. We checked in, and then I messaged Dave from Nerdarchy to see what was going on. Or actually, he messaged me when we were heading down, asking if we were in town yet. And so I messaged him back and said, hey, we're in town. Do you want to meet up? We ended up meeting up and going to Harry and Izzy's. As we went into Harry and Izzy's, all sorts of content creators came flowing out. You know, Kelsey, who made the Shadow Dart game. We had, I actually spotted Dungeon Coach because of how tall he is, towering over everybody. And as I noticed him, I'm like, hey, it's Dungeon Coach. And then Dave's already talking to Professor DM because he's, good friends with him. And I think we saw the Roll for Combat guys. I saw Luke from DM Lair, who played in the start of our Descent into Avernus campaign on this channel. And I think there were a few other people that were all, right there. It all happened so fast, and then it was luckily our time to go in and get our food. So we obviously got in, and Harry and Izzy's is a really nice restaurant if you've never been there. We kind of sat in the back and up, kind of tucked away from everything. But really good food. I had a burger, it was delicious. What did my wife have? I don't even remember what my wife had. Dave and his wife had already eaten dinner, so they just had a dessert. But we were talking for a while. It was a good time. And so then Paul and I went back to the hotel room. I decided to look at some events for the weekend. I signed up for some seminars. I think I signed up for 4 or 5 seminars. And I was like, I really want to try and get this player's handbook because I didn't get a review copy. So for me, it was about trying to get a copy so I can do content. I told my wife it'd be nice if I could do content this month. All the other ones I knew were going to be hitting in a couple days. And day 1 of Gen Con, I saw YouTube just overflowing with Player's Handbook content. So obviously, you've probably already seen a bunch of Player's Handbook content. But I am still going to be doing my review. I'm still going to be doing my opinion on the different classes, the changes, all of that as we go. But anyways, day 1, woke up. Knew that I had to get up really early in order to try and get the Player's Handbook. Logged in, and I didn't know how this was going to go, but I could tell it was going very slow. Just trying to get to the event page took at least 30 or 45 seconds to boot up, whereas none of the other web browsing was going this slow. So I knew it was something with their servers. So it was just one of those things where I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. So I opened multiple tabs and I started adding to cart, add to cart, add to cart. And so I noticed it said at 7 o'clock, 750 were available. And I kept seeing every time I clicked add to cart on the next tab, it was lowering and it wasn't adding to my cart. And I was like, what is going on here? Didn't get it day 1. Decided, okay, I'm going to add it to my wish list. I'll try again tomorrow. And then my wife and I decided, all right, let's go to Will Call. I had no idea if parking was going to be crazy. I had heard it was sold out right away. When I had gone in 2017, there was talks that Gen Con was sold out, but it was all day of stuff. It wasn't in advance. And even then, it felt like it was harder to park in 2017. We, most of the time in 2017, parked across from the convention center underground at the Westin parking. And I remember at times it was like driving around for a bit to try and find a spot. I remember that sucked, to be honest. And there were, but I think we pretty much always got in there, except for maybe one day back in 2017. Well, this day we're driving down there, and the first parking lot I wanted to go to was there because I was like, they'll have parking. Drove by, sold out, and it was 8 o'clock, I think, and it was already sold out. And I was like, oh shoot, this isn't gonna go well. And maybe it was like 8:30. So then, like, I drove around the block, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to drop you off. So I dropped my wife off near Will Call. And I said, Will Call is just inside these doors. Go get in line, and I'll go park, and I'll meet you up in line because I didn't think it was going to flow as quick as it did. Dropped her off. As soon as I pulled down the street, she's like, I'm already to the front of the line. I was like, oh. I ended up pulling into the parking structure near Dave's, the place where they, like, ridicule you and stuff. There were 2 parking structures side by side. I pulled into the first one, the one closer to the convention center, and found a spot. And was like, all right, perfect. You know, if I knew I was going to get a spot that close, I wouldn't have dropped my wife off. I would have just had her walk with me. But yeah, so parked there, went down, walked across, found my wife, and we went through Will Call. I got my tickets, but I noticed I didn't get all my tickets. So now I was really confused, like why I didn't get all the tickets. And then I noticed some are digital, some are physical, you know, all sorts of things like that. And I was like, all right, well, either way, we're planning on day one just going through the convention hall. And I think the only event I had day one was getting autographs from Matt Forbeck for the new Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. So we decided to, instead of trying to walk through the masses past the exhibit hall to get to where we wanted to be, because if you've been to GenCon, I'm sure, heck, even if you haven't been, you've seen the overtop photos of how packed in everyone is. Well, if you go one way, it's like that. If you go the other way, it's not quite like that. So I said, let's go upstairs and walk around this way. Plus, I wanted to see where the Marvel room was because they were going to have the new X-Men book. So if you aren't familiar, it's called the 616 system. I've never played it, but this is the core rule book right here. It's by Matt Forbeck. So Matt Forbeck has been on the channel before, so I want to support him, but I'm also a huge Marvel fan. So anyways, so walked around and figured out where the room was. Now, they were supposed to open the room at 8:30 for being able to purchase the new X-Men expansion. I had gotten word of that morning, and so we were standing outside the room at about 8:20, 8:25. As we were standing there, there was somebody in front of me, and I recognized him, but I couldn't figure out where from. Like, I couldn't tell if it was like a YouTube channel, if it was TikTok. Just couldn't put my finger on it. They had a really sweet X-Men tattoo on their shoulder of just like the X logo, you know, kind of like it's on the belts or uniforms of the different X-Men characters. And I'm standing there and I keep looking at him, and I had a conversation with another guy right there, and all of a sudden, you know, I was like, you know what? I can't figure this out. And I was like, I think the doors open at 9 for GenCon. Well, newsflash, they don't open till 10. So we went down for a minute downstairs to see what was going on with getting into the exhibit hall. And then someone down there was like, yeah, don't worry, they don't open till 10. I was like, oh, I felt like it was a little light around this escalator, because normally at 10 when the doors open, it's packed right there all the way up the escalator. So then Paula and I were like, all right, well, let's just go back upstairs and wait to purchase the X-Men book. So we did that. Eventually, we were able to get into the Marvel room. We had to stand in a line of like maybe 10 people at the most, where I saw this. Now, I've seen this online, but everything I've seen online said that it was a PDF. So I didn't know they had physical copies. I've seen it on Amazon. I think Amazon even calls it a PDF. Yeah. Deadpool role plays the Marvel universe. It starts with a comic book in here, and then it has a little adventure. I took my daughter to see Deadpool, so I thought it was kind of cool to just have this. But anyways, and it is kind of funny. I have to admit that. So, anyways, got in, bought that, bought the X-Men expansion. This is a really well done book. Fun to read. It gives you a bunch of new characters. It also explains like the different eras of X-Men and X-Force, and Age of Apocalypse is talked about briefly. All sorts of little overviews that I think are pretty cool. So yeah, it's a cool little book that I am definitely glad to have in my collection. Once we bought those, I ran into Mark Tassin in there. We got our little badges as well. We also got a pin. So if you bought the X-Men expansion, you also got this little Marvel pin here, which says GenCon 2024 on it, which is pretty cool. This, I don't know. This is pretty cool. This is actually the tattoo of on the one guy's shoulder too, by the way. But you also could get this little Mutants in Training badge here, which I thought was pretty cool. So I grabbed that there. And, and then we went back down. We went out and stood at the top of the escalator waiting for the doors to open. Did some footage that you can see in my GenCon experience video. And then we started making our way down the escalator and got in. Now, Paula and I knew, we were thinking we were going to do all our shopping day one, or at least look at everything and then go buy everything. I didn't know if we would make it through the whole convention, the exhibit hall, in day one. However, we decided to give that a shot, and at one point, because we went straight to the Palladium booth, and I saw Sean Robertson sitting there, and he had some coffee, and he was not facing the doors, he was facing like towards like all the exhibit hall, right, like away from the doors. And as he's sitting there, he looked exhausted, and I'm sure he was. And I walked around and I said, "Hey, Sean, why do you look like this is your Sunday face? This is only day one. You can't look like that." And he laughed, and we shook hands and started talking for a bit. And he showed me. I'd like to think I was the first one on Thursday to see the preview of the work he's done on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness. So he showed me the booklet and showed me different sections. And the skills, there's some things in there about how skills are done, which I've never seen in a Palladium book. And it's exactly what I've been telling people to do who play Palladium. I'm like, hey guys, you should modify the difficulties of the checks. It shouldn't just be whatever your percentage is. You should add bonuses and negatives depending on things going on. So that was really cool to see in there. There were some other things in there like movement, like when it comes to miniatures and just movement in general that isn't really well covered in other books. In general, I think there's a lot of clarity being added to the book that I thought was really good. Now, obviously, not everyone cares about what's going on with Palladium. I am a big Palladium guy. That's what got me into tabletop RPGs, so I will always have nostalgia for it. So I decided, though, because I looked at some of the stuff and I knew I was looking at Rift's Chaos Earth, a book I've never owned, and I was looking at the Heroes Unlimited hardcover because that was my first RPG, right? TMNT and Heroes Unlimited were my very first two role-playing game books. And I told my wife, I'm like, I think I'm going to buy the hardcover so that I have that. And I made the decision then to not buy it yet, because I said, worst case scenario, I'll get it in a couple months or whatever. But either way, I will eventually get that. And I said the same thing about Chaos Earth. My wife and I made the decision that we were going to look and try not to buy until we saw everything. And I think that was the moment. Because she was looking at, on their table, they had a Call of Cthulhu cookbook that was like, it could be used as a movie prop. It was that nice of a book, The cover, it looks like the Necronomicon, like from Evil Dead, where it's real detailed and every page looked very detailed like that. But it was a Call of Cthulhu cookbook. I think it was called the Necronom Nom Nom. And so she was looking at that and she really liked it. And she talked about that book all day long. So anyways, we then decided we were going to start on the far left of the exhibit hall and just go down the aisles. And as we started moving that way, we walked by the Pathfinder booth, and which is funny because Pathfinder is a game that I think is really well made. I love a lot of the people for that company. I've interviewed people for that company on the channel. But it was packed. There was a line that went all the way around their booth, so it even made it hard to kind of go in and look at some stuff. I wanted to look at their miniatures because I love Pathfinder miniatures. I think they're better than the Dungeons and Dragons miniatures usually, at least like the smaller scale ones. And so I was like, all right, let's go look at the miniatures. And I wanted to show my wife the Leshies. My wife is she loves gardening. She loves plants. She's got plants all over her office. Like, if I ever want to pick her up, from having a bad day or whatever, I just buy her a plant at the store, and it does the trick, and she's usually pretty happy about that. So I wanted to show her the Leshies because I thought that would be cool, and I showed her, and she did like them. She really liked the Leshies. And then I took a picture with, like, the Space Goblin, and I took a picture of the Kobold, and then I noticed... my friends at Green Ronin were one booth over, and I was like, oh, cool, because we also didn't get a program when we walked in. So I think we either got the program later day one or on Friday. I want to say it was later in day one when we saw them restocking it, probably in the afternoon at some point. So I didn't know what booths were where. My friends online who were going to be here were telling me, oh, I'm in this booth number and this booth number. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll find you. And I didn't even write the stuff down. I should have. But either way, I found all my friends who were set up at different booths, for the most part. I think there were like one or two people I missed. But yeah, so then went over, talked to some of the guys at Green Ronin. I talked to Steve, asked him if Troy was going to be there. Steve Kenson, by the way, who does a lot for the Mutants and Masterminds game line. Sometimes I watch their streams on Monday, on the Green Ronin YouTube channel. Which, if you're into superhero games, they have some pretty good conversations over there about how to do different kinds of things, how to prepare campaigns, variety of helpful things. And Mutants and Masterminds is a game that I own the core books, but I've never played it or run it. So it is a game I would like to play in the future. So if you guys are if you're into Mutants and Masterminds and want to run it for on the channel, reach out, and I would love to make that work somehow. So anyways, talked to him for a minute, asked him if Troy was over there, the disembodied voice. Couldn't find Troy. Troy wasn't there. I guess Troy had just walked away. I was like, I'll just come back and see him. No big deal. And anyways, started our walk. There was a table that was full of opened, pre-painted miniatures. Tons of them. Big ones, little ones. Really cool table. And there was a guy standing there looking at them, and I started picking up some, and I'm like, none of them are priced. Now, you can tell, maybe you can't tell, I don't know. These all behind me are cards. So I go to a lot of card shows. I set up at card shows. I do sports cards mostly, but I've got Star Wars cards. I got Marvel cards. When I go to a card show and I see cards and no pricing, that is a huge red flag for me. A lot of times I've noticed those guys haven't looked up the prices. A lot of times they're overpriced. The guy picked up, I would say, a pretty common miniature, and he was like, oh, how much for this one? And the guy at the booth looked at it for a minute, looked at the bottom, and was like, $20. And once I heard that, I was out. I was like, all right, no, this is going to be an overpriced booth. Maybe it wasn't. I didn't give it a shot, though. I knew there were cool miniatures. I did like a lot on there. If they were cheaper or priced well, I don't know. So I just walked away after that and was like, never mind. Because, my red flags were pinging, my radar was pinging. A couple booths after that, I think, was the Ocarina of Time booth. And my wife and I were looking at those because we're like, oh, our daughter, she plays violin. She's really into instruments. And my daughter's in middle school. She's 13. We also have a 9-year-old and a soon-to-be 6-year-old. Music is a big deal in our house. And so we were looking at the ocarinas. We noticed they had song books, and they were really well priced. Like, you could get a really nice wooden ocarina for like $90. They also had a ceramic one. Don't quote me on this. I feel like it was about $60. And then they had plastic ones, which were real durable. Like, she was like, yeah, you can drop this. And she's like hitting it on the table. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be perfect, right? The plastic one. And that was $40. And sounds great. You know, obviously the wood one sounds a million times better. But, you know, for what you're going to do with it, you know, and just play around, it would be great. So the plastic one, $40. I was like, oh, and she performed and played a couple different songs. And she played the woods, I think it's the Kukari Forest one or something like that. Or no, she did the Time song, I think. So anyways, was really cool. I was like, ooh, we need to remember that booth. We went down. Then there were these shirts that I was in love with. Found out this booth also had the stained glass for GenCon, but it also had the D20. I used it in my video. I posted all over social media, but it had the D20 there as well. And I was of stained glass, and I was like, this is great. And I asked the guy, hey, how much is that one? He's like, my wife told me if I don't come home with this one, that I can sleep outside or something like that. I was like, oh, never mind. But I think he was asking a lot for that specific one. But he said he could do custom ones. He makes also like stick-ons of the stained glass that you can just put on your windows. And my wife was looking at a couple of those ones. She really liked the Hobbit one that was talking about like where home is or something. And he had told us that they do a blessing of the dice. I was like, well, if I get some dice, I'm definitely going to come for the blessing of the dice. You know, so I didn't buy anything, but I will tell you later on I did buy that shirt. Like the day we were shopping, which was Saturday, I believe. So ended up like going through all the booths, saw the Eclipse Phase game. Now, Eclipse Phase is a game that I played one time at a place called Grand Land down here in Grand Rapids. When I had played that, we had sat down to make a character and we used an Excel sheet. Now, it was first edition, but there was a character generator using an Excel spreadsheet with all the formulas and all this stuff. Looked very in-depth. We were also using a PDF. It used to be free. I don't know if the PDF version of the game is still free. They're on a second edition now. But either way, it used to be free. And I have that original version on my computer. So I was trying to look at it. There was actually some people at the booth, so it was kind of hard to get in and see stuff. And because all the people working the booth were engaged in conversation as well, I was having a hard time finding out what the price was. So I didn't want to stand there forever. I was like, you know what? I'll come back. I know I'm interested. If I'm still interested in seeing it after a day or two or whatever, we'll come back to this booth specifically. And so I just made a mental note. And we moved on. And obviously we went through a few more things. We ended up going to Steak and Shake for lunch that day because we were like, you know what? Let's eat somewhere close. Once we eat lunch, we can then get back to doing what we're doing to get through the hall. Because that's my wife really wanted to do the shopping. Before going to Gen Con, one of the things I kept doing is like, hey, do you want to do events? Do you want to play some games? What is it you want to do? And the only thing she kept saying is, I just want to do the shopping. Let's see what they have there. She didn't want to commit to anything specifically. Now, I am somebody who's always had a good time going to seminars for different things. And I didn't schedule any ahead of time because I wanted to make sure my wife had a good time and we were doing things she wanted to do. I don't think seminars are anything she would be interested in, though. So I didn't schedule any at this point. I guess I did day one in the morning or whatever. Wednesday night, I guess I scheduled some. We then went to lunch, went back into the convention hall, hit a few more aisles, ran into our friend Randall Hampton, author of the Little Game Master books, as well as the Children's RPG, which is a fantastic game if you've got children. Very simple game to get kids into role-playing games in the D&D mold. So it does kind of stick to the D20 and similar things to D&D. So if you did end up playing that for a while with your kids, trying to move them on to playing D&D would be very natural for them. So yeah, we did talk to him for a while, got some cool video of his friend's booth, Gemhammer Games, which was also really cool. Ended up Then going up and meeting Matt Forbeck, getting the autographs on all of these books, him and his son Marty. And in each book, he wrote something different. So I think he wrote Excelsior in one. He personalized some of these to me, so that's kind of cool. I also got him to sign my free RPG Day X-Men book. So he did sign this one as well. He said this was the first one he has signed. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, he signed that. He signed the X-Men expansion. Obviously, that was brand new. This one he wrote my X-Men. So that was cool. Cataclysm of Kang. I don't know what he wrote in that one. He wrote something, though. And he signs it in the credits area. He just wrote Kang in that one. And then the core rulebook, I think, is where he wrote Excelsior. So, which is obviously a homage to Stan Lee as well. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, and I got to talk to him briefly and tell him, it'd be cool to have him on the channel and to maybe have him run the game for us. So there is a chance in the future that Matt Forbeck will come on the channel and run the Marvel RPG. I have to follow up with him. I haven't done that yet, but that is something I would be really excited about. I've also been talking to my friend Tom Grant, who ran Zweihander on the channel. He also ran some D&D for when Critical Role had their setting books coming out and like their adventures. He ran a couple sessions on the channel of that as well. So Tom's been on the channel in the past. He's also played in a few of my games. But he is interested in running the Marvel role-playing game. So there's a chance I'll play in an offline game with him. And that'll be really cool because it's a game I've obviously got all the books for. I love superhero games, and I want to play it. So, anyways, then we went back to the convention hall, and we were looking through some of the artist booths. And we saw, I've never heard of this, but apparently you can get the cards that are metal, and they call them tokens. And we saw a few of those at different booths. And there were some that we thought, oh, those would be great to get for the kids. Because I collect cards, my kids collect cards, and they're all trading card size. So we, again, made a mental note, but we forgot which booths they were. When we were trying to buy stuff for the kids on Saturday, we could not find those booths. We found a couple, but it wasn't the ones that we were looking at. So I was really bummed out about that because I really wanted to get each kid their own little metal card because I thought they would love that. But either way, those are cool. Maybe in the future we'll get some of those because they also weren't priced bad. I think they were under $5 and you get a really cool metal card. But there were a lot of artists for like Magic the Gathering who were signing their own cards or selling their own signed cards. There were some cool, some authors there with the books they've written. So we saw some really cool ones of those. Didn't buy any of those, but definitely we're looking at some of those. And, it's always cool meeting starting authors or startup authors. I kind of felt bad, though. They have a bunch of authors in these couple small rows, and there's nobody walking through their area. And so when you walk through there, it's almost like you're the prey and they're the predators because they're just like, oh, do you like fantasy? Do you like and they're really trying hard to get you to look at their book. But the more they are like that, the less you really want to be interested in their book. So it's like this very awkward, pushy salesman kind of thing. And, it's just, I feel bad for the authors. I wish there was a better way they could do it. I don't know, but it just didn't seem like a lot of people were at GenCon to look at the authors' books or anything like that because they were kind of being skipped over. The artists were getting some good traffic, though. Obviously, people were really interested in the prints and stuff like that over there, and there was some amazing art. Some of the cosplay booths are really cool. There was a booth that had wizards hats and other leather work, and it had maps of different IPs worlds on it, right? You had Middle Earth on one. I feel like there was a Zelda one somewhere too, where it was Hyrule or something, but maybe I was just optimistic and hoping there was that, and I just didn't see it. But there were some really cool ones. What else? Like, yeah, there was a lot of stuff. So then we ended up getting through the whole convention center in day one, which was very tough on my wife and I. I was sore. My knees were a little sore. My legs were sore. I was tired. My wife, she's got like a type of arthritis where her body's always attacking the joints. All sorts of health issues because of this ailment. She's also hypermobile, which in combination makes it so a lot of the treatments are the one thing make it difficult. But she pushed through like a trooper, and I've never heard her really complain from doing long walks or anything. And by the end of the day, she was done. And so we were invited, Dave invited us to a party over at the football stadium in a suite. I think it was the Vast Grim guys. They were having a private party over there, and there were going to be some content creators over there and stuff like that. And we ended up declining to go. We were like, you know what? We need to go back, take a shower, and relax. And so that's what we did on Thursday, just because we were just way too tired. So when we went back to the room, I was looking at the X-Men book, and I started making a plan of all the things I wanted to buy. I made a list, and I pretty much knew what I wanted. Well, I didn't know yet, but I made a list of all the things I was thinking about. My wife was dead set. She's like, I'm going to get that cookbook. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. We were in two different sections, right, of what we were going to do. I knew that I wanted to get some dice. And so Friday morning, I knew also that I was planning on going to the AD&D seminar with Luke Gygax and a couple other people. And that was the first thing I had to do in the morning. My wife was like, I'm going to go shopping while you do that. I said, perfect. And we had a game set up for Cool Name Goes Here for Friday evening from 4 to 6 to end our day. So we ended up going to... We split up first thing in the morning. She went to Will Call, got the coupon book, and then started shopping. I ended up going to the seminar, and I was falling asleep because I tried to get the D&D Player's Handbook that morning to no avail. Failed miserably on that. Was like, you know what? There's no way I'm doing this right. However, that's when I learned you have to process your wish list. So I did that. Didn't get a ticket for the Player's Handbook on Friday. We ended up going down to... So I went to the seminar, and like halfway through I'm like dozing off, but I was really interested in what they were talking about. A lot of the stuff I already knew. Like I've read books about D&D and all that stuff. I've seen Luke do interviews before about like what it was like growing up, in the house that made D&D and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff I knew. Some stuff I didn't know as much about. I live in Michigan, so hearing about like them talk about the Satanic Panic with the Michigan State student, I already knew some of that stuff as well. However, I always thought the kid did actually die. Apparently, he didn't die. So apparently, he was found and didn't actually die. So yeah, news to me, I guess. So then we met up again. And I said, all right, here's the things I wanted to get. And so I went and I bought the shirt that I wanted at the, what was it called? It's like Nerd Art. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, the one booth that had the stained glass. Got the shirt there. I went to the Palladium booth and I bought a couple books. I did end up buying the hardcovers I wanted. So I got Heroes Unlimited, and I did get Rift's Chaos Earth. So I was really happy to add those to my collection. The previous day I had already had Kevin and Sean and Wayne sign my hardcover Palladium fantasy book. So I did get this one signed. And Kevin drew a dragon. So I got a little dragon in there, which is pretty cool. And it says, live the fantasy. So he signed right there, but he also signed it on the next page. and said "Game On." Sean and Wayne also signed this page, so that was pretty cool. So that I like having that. I know you can get their books signed in advance. Like if you are ordering the books for a grab bag and you can say I want all books signed or whatever, they'll sign the books for you. But to me, there's something, I think it's more meaningful to get the autograph yourself in person. So that for me was a really cool thing for me to get. You know, it's one of those things I'll always remember it as GenCon 2024. So real excited about that. I decided to get the spinner die, which this thing, I thought this was pretty cool. The day one I had seen it and was looking at it. Just real cool little spinner fidget thing. So I did get this in day two on Friday. And I had seen on day one that there were multiple booths with this. Now, the booths that were, when you walk into like the exhibit hall to the far right in the corner kinda, they were $65 there. This booth was in the first row near the Glass Cannon Network area, and it was only $30. So I did get it at that booth because I was like, oh, these are really well priced, and it was the first spot I saw it anyway. I also ended up there was this one booth that had all sorts of these dice. These are liquid core dice, and so if you roll them, they kind of, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. You're not going to be able to see it, but they look real pretty. You can see the glitter in there moving and the liquid moving. So I will say if they sit too long in one spot, you'll see the glitter just doesn't want to leave that one wall. So, but yeah, these are really cool dice. All of them obviously do that. But yeah, they're awesome. I absolutely love these dice. They're pretty. They're my prettiest dice. I've never had dice that I'm like, ooh, these ones are really pretty. So I've always wanted a set of dice that I just was like, these are my like best dice. I have cool dice, but they're not like anything exceptional. They're just like a couple colors that I prefer or whatever. So yeah, but anyways, so once I got that fidget though, I ended up going over, I did get this the previous day. This is a free quick start rules for Eclipse Phase. So I did grab this. I was looking at this at the same time I was looking at my X-Men books the night before. Liked what I was reading, and I said, you know what? I should go get that book. And so I went to the Eclipse Phase booth, and they were almost out of all the books. They had one Dent and Scratch book that was 50% off. And they said, here's what we can do for you. You can either roll percentiles if you've got dice on you, and we can give you that much off of the regular price, or we can sell it to you for $30. And I said, well, I just got this fidget die. Let's do it. And so I did they let me do it with the fidget, and I did it, and I got like 70% off or whatever. It ended up being about $18. But I got this book. Now, this is a hefty book. This is a very, very hefty book. It's about being transhuman, so like you wear bodysuits basically, or skin suits, and you can have different super abilities, that you can upgrade your suit with. Very cool game. I remember when I had played this at Grandland, it was kind of pitched to me as you never really die because your actual conscience doesn't actually have to be in the suit. It can be somewhere else radioing into it or whatever. And so when you die in the suit, your conscience goes back here and you can end up jumping into another suit, or you can have a backup suit or whatever. But yeah, it's a very cool game. The book is gorgeous. So just right when you flip open, you've got a quote. Let's see if I can show you some of the art in here. So like this page has like some hamsters, but you can have like tails and suction cup fingers and all sorts of different things, extra limbs. Like, it's just a pretty cool game. So yeah, I did get that, and then I did grab this also on day 2, the Dungeon Crawl Classics quick start guide as well. I already have, I think, a couple of these from a free RPG day a few years ago. I need to get the dice for this game. I would like to get the hardcover for this as well at some point, but haven't gotten around to doing that. But yeah, so anyways, that pretty much wraps up what I bought at GenCon. I don't think I bought anything else. Oh, well, I guess on the final day I bought the handbook. But either way, ended up getting all the stuff my wife wanted. However, my wife was very indecisive. The previous day, she knew what she wanted. Friday, it's all of a sudden like she got, I'd say buyer's remorse, but she hadn't bought a lot yet. And so she didn't buy a lot of things. She bought some stuff. Like she got a shirt, I think, and a couple other things. And one of the things she wanted to do was demo some games. Well, we had a plan to demo games on Saturday, so we hadn't actually tried any of that stuff yet. At 4 o'clock, we went over to the Westin, where Mark had a private room for us to play Cool Name Goes Here. Now, I think this game probably has the most versatile and fun spellcasting system. We had met with Harold at lunch that day. We ended up going to Steak and Shake again, which my wife said, we do not need to go to Steak and Shake ever again when we go to Gen Con. She only has one thing she can eat there because of her diet restrictions and stuff. So we did go to Steak and Shake with Harold. He's been on the channel, plays in multiple games here. Used to go by Blackthorn's Apothecary on TikTok. I think he's making a change over to calling himself the Dread DM. So you can probably find him over on TikTok still or any of those other things. But anyways, at lunch, I asked him if he wanted to go and play in this game because I had heard that there was still another couple spots available for the game. So he said, oh yeah, that would work. So I messaged Mark, made sure there was, enough room in the game. And Mark said that was cool. So I invited Harold, and we split up after lunch. And then, we ended up meeting up to play the game. Steven Shend was there. Steven Shend is also a writer, I believe. And Mark was standing there, and then a couple other guys who were really nice. We ended up getting the rules explained to us in a brief overview of how the game works. The really cool thing about this game, like I said, is the magic system. But your character sheet doesn't list a bunch of skills or anything like that. You have your attributes over here. You have like your health stuff here. You have this is your favorite action. So these, you can do other things, but these are the things you're probably going to do the most. So I was a fighter. So like I have an axe chop or throw an axe, shove, grab, restrain, takedown, disarm. My wife's character was a rogue. So she's got stab or slice, slinging bullets, find traps, pick locks, hide, sneak. You don't have to have these things on your sheet to do them, just so you are aware. So these things are all, little extras that you can do. This other one looks like a cleric. We have this character sheet for a cleric. Because your MO, which is down here, is your class, okay? Under your class, you have focuses and then specializations. So the specialization for this cleric is healing. The focus here is spell casting. These just give you an extra die bonus or an extra action point bonus over here. But if you want to cast a spell, like even the cleric, because they have spell casting, could do a fireball. But without the specialization, they just don't get that extra oomph, that extra bonus. And it might be considered an extra level of difficulty for them. So there are things like that. But anyway, so everybody who played got this, and he did sign all of our copies. Mine is copy number 3 of 5. He had just printed these the day before because playtest version 1.0 had just come out the day before. And the day of, about 2 hours before the game, an email went out that there was already errata. But the system is really good. It was fun. I think it's going to be a system you hear me talking about a lot in the future on this channel. If this is something you want to hear more about, let me know. But we had a wizard whose specialty was like fire spells, and he was doing necromancy stuff with a mouse. So, which even the GM Mark said, just so you know, that's not your specialization, so it's going to be very difficult. And he had to use a spell point in order to do it. It was super cool. It was fun. So we also had like a druid doing all sorts of fun stuff with the like vines as we were underground, and I was able to make a shank out of a bowl. I used a strength check to roll this tin bowl up to turn it into a shank, because we were basically escaping a jail cell. But yeah, it was fun. You could tell there's a lot of creative freedom for the players. It really rewards thinking outside the box in fun, innovative ways. When you sit around the table and you're all playing D&D, you'll notice sometimes players will look at their character sheet, at their spells. They'll look at... got this fly flying around here right now. You'll see they'll be looking at their skills and what they're proficient in to see if they can even do something well enough or whatever. And this game does not encourage that kind of play. It encourages you to think, what would your character actually do with the situation at hand? And you're really only limited by yourself and what you can come up with. So yeah, it's a game I definitely am looking forward to talking about a lot more. So yeah, I think that covers all that, from there. But anyway, so that was Friday. We ended up going out to, where did we go? So Dave had messaged me when we were in that game about what we wanted to do afterwards. And I knew Harold was busy. He meets up at GenCon every year and plays with his online group, some D&D and stuff. And so I knew he wasn't going to be available, so I was like, all right, we'll get a quick photo after this with Mark, and we'll see what Dave's doing. Well, Dave messaged me, and so we ended up agreeing to meet up with him for dinner. So we met up with him. We got to ride in the Nerdarchy Mobile, which is actually... it was cool. He's got a huge Nerdarchy sticker on the side door, and on the hood he's got their Nerdarchy goblin with a bomb. It's actually really cool. But we drove like 20 minutes out to this Mexican restaurant, which I gotta be honest, it looked sketchy. Like the parking lot was all dirt and rocks, but like massive crater potholes. Like we're driving into it to park and it's like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, dude, this is really shady. And it was tiny. Like this restaurant was probably maybe 2 or 3 times the size of this room at most. My game room's pretty big. It's, it's not too bad. But, so we got inside and a couple of his friends met up with us who are, that are big with his channel. And another guy who's a good friend of Dave's also went with us over there. And when we got inside, I'm sitting there, and my wife decided to call the kids. So she stepped out, and as she stepped out, I'm sitting there talking. We're having a good conversation about different things. And the couple that showed up, that actually lives only like an hour away from us, the one spilled their water, and it went all over the left side of me. Just the whole tall cup of ice water. And it was cold, and I was like, oh! And I like froze. And yeah, anyways, they were very apologetic. They felt bad. But I did not let them live that down. I harassed them the rest of the night. But anyways, the food there was amazing. I just had a steak quesadilla, but it was like this thick. It was like eating a burger. There was so much steak on it. My wife had like a shrimp skillet or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. But some kind of, like, it came out on a skillet. It was all boiling. And it was shrimp and peppers. Fajita. She had fajitas. That's what she did. And she couldn't finish it all. And I had like a bite of it at the end. And it was so good. I was almost like, man, I wish I had that. But the steak quesadilla was good too. We ended up talking for a bit. And then we went back to GenCon or whatever. The exhibit. Not the exhibit. The convention center. We parked over by Safeco Field and had to walk around. Bill Allen was messaging us when we were out to dinner about meeting up with him, so we ended up going back and meeting up at the 10 Hands at the Westin. That's their bar in there, and we hung out, and I got to meet, I think his name is This Effin' GM, I think. Got to talk to him and meet him. That was cool. Was talking to Bill. Obviously, Bill's like guy who also helps him with the streams and works with him. You know, it was a good time. Now, I will say this. The bartender, everyone got their drinks, right? And everyone kind of had issues getting their drinks. I don't drink a lot. And I was like, you know what? Let me see if my wife's cool with it. I'm just going to have a Jack and Coke. I'll get it in a tall glass, whatever. Wife was like, sure, go ahead, whatever. Just be careful, because she was in no condition to drive because she had taken her medicine. And she wasn't drinking, but she couldn't drive either. So I'm standing there trying to get my drink order. And I'm the only one. We were on the far half away from the door. And I'm the only one standing there, like, clearly trying to get a drink. The bartender made eye contact twice, but was doing stuff. And I think she ended up checking out another guy and getting his tab. Meanwhile, on the other side, there were a bunch of people, and the girl over there was doing no problem getting people their drinks and stuff, and she seemed very attentive. So I'm kind of getting frustrated. After about 10 minutes, I said, screw this, I'm not drinking. I'm not getting a drink. And so I turned around and was done. I was just so annoyed with that. And then, you know, we stayed for like another hour talking and decided we were going to leave and go back. But it was so obnoxious. And I was trying to figure out, nobody had gotten a player's handbook in this group from the ticketing system. A couple of them were content creators and got it through Wizards of the Coast directly about a month ago. So I was talking to them about that and their thoughts on it, and ended up going, you know what? I'm going to try one last time tomorrow. I mean, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. No big deal. And we left, went to the hotel room, went to bed. In the morning, I woke up again at 6 a.m. I'm like, and again, we were out till almost midnight. So again, another 5-6 hours of sleep at best. And I'm up there and I'm like, all right, let's do this. This is the one where I recorded how, you know, the process and everything. And I had no idea if I got it or not, because when you're going through the process, it starts off at 750. And when I process, as soon as 7 o'clock hit, I hit process wish list. And I did that, and it said I was in line 900 whatever. And I opened another tab, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. Well, let's try again. And I'm like, add to cart. And I noticed it said like 840 whatever. That's the video on my my GenCon experience. And I'm like, that's not possible, because it's down to 5 tickets now. Like, how are 800 people going to get in for 5 tickets? And then it ended, and it said something like add to cart and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, add to cart. And there's nothing in my cart. It's like, I didn't get it. And then I noticed it said, wait 2 hours for processing to find out if you got it or not. I was like, oh. So then I was like, I hope I got it. And the whole time I'm just thinking, I hope I got it. I don't know if I got it. And like, I kept bringing it up with my wife. I was probably pretty annoying. And we're driving down into the convention center. We knew this last day we were going to... She was going to do some shopping. We were going to demo some games, purchase the stuff for the kids that we haven't done yet, and then we were just going to leave at the end of the day. And we knew we were going to do food trucks for lunch, because that's what we had talked about the previous day. So we are driving in, and as soon as we get down there, I checked my schedule, and my schedule had the D&D Player's Handbook. And I was like, oh, Paula, I got one. And I was like, yes. Okay. So then I said, well, all right, let's split up then. You start doing shopping. I will do the walk to the football field, and I will get my book. Went over there, got my book, got some footage inside of Safeco, and all of that. And was kind of looking at it. I was like, yeah, cool, I got it. Took some photos over there of the book, and ended up, obviously, coming back to the convention center. Was really excited all day. Really tired, though. Physically, just mentally, just drained, exhausted. And, yeah, so we bought some stuff for the kids. We demoed Stock Exchange, which is a really fun game. Actually, we actually had the guy who made the game demo it for us, and he was kind of talking about how you do it and how you like have to surround the flower with bulbs or whatever in order to be able to pick the flower and vice versa. Or I don't know. I don't remember now, but the game is cool because you can change the value of the flowers by what you trade in and stuff like that. So it's basically a play on the stock market that you can kind of manipulate and control, and there's certain ways to do it. So it seems like there's a lot of strategy involved, and we haven't played the game yet. We're going to probably play it here in the next couple days. I also have something coming up that I need to talk about, but September 20th is a Friday here, and my wife is the president of Lowell, Michigan Pride. It's called Lowell Pride. But we're going to be doing a game night for Lowell Pride at the UCC Church here in Lowell, Michigan. So if you're in the West Michigan area and you want to come out, it'll be from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. I will be posting about that on social media once we get it guests confirmed or whatever. I've reached out to some people. I've also reached out to a couple companies that might be interested in like donating giveaway things or just things for us to play, like board games or whatever. So yeah, if you're going to be in the area though, you're more than welcome to come out, and stay tuned to my social media for that. But anyways, we got Stock Exchange. We then went and demoed Ogre Sandwich, which looked like a cute little kids game. My friend Aaron was demoing that all weekend long. He painted himself green and had like a chef hat. Good friend of the channel. He was demoing that, and he demoed it for us. He had wanted us to come play games on Friday night, but we really weren't up for playing games. We were like, you know what? We just want to go get some like dinner and hang out and talk. And so he wanted to play games, so we just didn't meet up Friday night. I kind of wish we did, because I think it would have been fun. At the same time, mentally, when I'm really tired, I don't want to play a lot of games. So, anyways, we demoed that, loved it, decided to buy it. We got that in another game, and mainly got it because that's a cool game for kids. So we ended up playing it with our kids when we got home, or my wife did, and it was a hit. They loved it. It was a fun game. But yeah, so we demoed that, and then we ended Saturday, because we weren't staying for Sunday. We didn't have a hotel through Sunday. We ended with a Palladium Books Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles seminar. Talked to Kevin for a little bit beforehand, and went into the seminar, and that was fun. So my wife was falling asleep. I was actually dozing off, and I hate to say that because I'm always very interested in hearing what the guys have to say and learning new things about the process. And but I was so beat, and I was just like dozing off. Heck, even talking about it right now is putting me in that mental state again of how I felt that day. I'm just like, I mean, today was a long day, but yeah. So anyways, it was a cool little seminar. And then after that, I went up to kind of thank the guys. I had meant to do interviews with a few different people at GenCon before I went. Was kind of trying to set some things up. Kevin and Sean, when I first talked to them on day one, were like, yeah, we're open to doing, interviews. Anytime all weekend you want to do it. And my voice every day was getting more and more hoarse. And so I kept putting it off instead of just doing it. And I had put it off, and I said, you know what, I'll meet up with you guys before the seminar on Saturday or after, and we could do a quick little interview. And unfortunately that day, I was so exhausted, I kind of just wanted to get home. And so I told him, I'm like, hey, my voice is kind of gone. Right after, I was like, my voice is kind of gone. We should set something up on the channel. So they have agreed to come on the channel. I just have to reach out and make it happen at some point. But they are willing to come on to the channel and do an interview, and maybe we'll talk about TMNT, maybe we'll talk about other stuff, maybe we'll talk about GenCon. I don't know, but they have said they will come on. So drove home, and the rest is history, right? GenCon was fun though. We had a good time. So already looking forward to next year. My wife had a blast, so clearly it went well for her. We are going to try and figure out how to go next year and stay through Sunday. And I think that was our big takeaway. There's a lot of things to take away. First of all, many people go to Gen Con for a variety of different reasons. I mean, some people are there to play games, some people to network. For us, we're there to, see our friends and socialize more than anything else. Obviously it's cool to do other things. Some people are there to get educated with the seminars. Some people are there for the guy I work with he gets a bunch of promos. That's his thing. He likes to collect the promos and he tries to get extras. He'll have his wife also get them. And then he sells those to pay for his whole trip. And, he also, I guess this year he made like a huge profit because he also bought a box that had a $1,200 card in it. He does a lot of the card game stuff more so than anything. But he bought a box for $400 that had a $1,200 card in it. So that right there profited like $800. And I think he already sold it online. So, yeah. So it's kind of interesting just hearing how different people like to tackle the experience. Obviously I still view it differently than my wife. And my wife obviously really enjoys the shopping. I mean, I do too, because there's some really cool stuff there. But, for me, it's 100% friends, a little bit networking, a little bit of getting to know some of the people I admire and respect in the business, and just seeing cool stuff. Like, for me, that's enough for me. But I came home from Gen Con feeling refreshed, feeling like this was a vacation, and I can't say that I've had this feeling from other conventions or anything really like that. This is the first time where I've been around a lot of people for days on end and I've not come home just completely drained, not wanting to talk to people. I came home wanting to talk to people, like, oh, I should try to set up this event and that event, and I really want to get to work. And that's part of why I have to, when I get excited like that, I have to calm myself down, because I'm like, oh, I want to play this game and that game, and I want to schedule this stream and that. And so I've purposely made this last week, let's get back in the flow of things, let's get used to things before we dive into anything else. But if you were going to Gen Con for your first time, I do think you should try to see the whole exhibit hall. You know yourself better than other people. If you are somebody who literally just wants to play a lot of games, you can do that. You can go and check out the game library. I think the game library was at the football field. I didn't go down on the football field, so I don't know what was there. The one thing I missed that I wanted to go see was the D&D museum. I never got around to seeing that, but that was something I wish I would have seen. Other than that, I did everything I wanted to do. But if you are somebody who's going for the first time, plan on, if you're by yourself or with a group, plan on trying to see the exhibit hall, pretty much everything there, because there's a lot of cool stuff. I would also say, have a plan before you go for what you might want to buy. And if anything, when you go, if there's anything there that was not on that list, don't buy it the first time you see it. I say that because it's very easy to make a lot of impulse buys. If you're on the Fans of Gen Con Facebook page, you can see the hauls that people bought. And people bought thousands of dollars of games, which is awesome. But it also is like, oh my gosh, their poor wallets, So I would say make a plan of a few things you're interested in. Go into the exhibit hall, look at everything. If those things are there and they're priced well or whatever, buy them, right? Because you want them. And make trips to your car or your hotel room or whatever to offload them if it's getting too heavy or too big. Impulse buys, if you like it, make a mental note, take a picture of the booth number, or write it down or whatever. And then I would say come back later once you've seen everything. That's what we did. It worked really well. It helped us stay on track. It also stopped my wife from, she obviously really liked that Cthulhu cookbook. It stopped her from buying that because she saw other things that she really wanted more. So, if she would have bought that, when she saw it, she wouldn't have got Stock Exchange. There's some other things she probably wouldn't have bought. She got a really cool Lord of the Rings silver ring where it looks like the ring from the movie. Instead of being gold, it's silver, though. And she's been wearing that a lot. She got some really cool, like this skull pottery plate thing that she puts her rings on now. She got some other really cool stuff that she was really happy about. If I would have acted impulsively, I probably would have bought a lot more Palladium book stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I probably wouldn't have gotten the Player's Handbook. I probably wouldn't have gotten Eclipse Face, stuff like that. So, when it comes down to it, there's multiple ways to tackle it. But anyway, so I did get the Player's Handbook, like I was saying, and because I bought it at GenCon, I got this special D&D 50th Anniversary D20. It's got gold flakes in it. You can't really see it that well, but you can kind of tell there's gold flakes in there that look kind of cool. And this is a bigger than normal D20, slightly bigger. Also got this sticker. I'm not sure what I think it's a sticker. Not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I was thinking about putting it inside of my book so that it's like, oh, this is the book I bought at GenCon, So was thinking about doing that. And then obviously when you go over there, you have to wear a wristband in order to, because the line gets a little long or whatever. So I got this 50th anniversary wristband, which is pretty cool. Just a cool thing to have. So, yeah. Since coming home, I have not read this yet. My wife was reading through it on the car ride home, which it was kind of hard for me to follow along and focus on the roads and things like that. But she was reading it to me on the way home. There were some interesting things that were changed. For instance, I believe you choose your class first, which is different than how it used to be. It used to be you choose your race and your class and then background, which is also different than how other games are currently doing this. Obviously, race is now called species in here, and they've removed some of the buffs for those. However, some species get spellcasting and like some minor healing. So there's things in there that's interesting. I don't know. Until I make some characters and play it, I don't have a strong opinion on it yet. But again, we will, as I read it more, as I create some characters and kind of do some little tests, I will do videos on it and talk about it and give you guys more of my opinion. I will say the art in the book is gorgeous. I love the direction they've gone with the art. I think it's better than the previous handbook. Some art they've reused from the old handbook, but not really like anything important. It's like the spell cones and stuff like that in the back of the book or whatever that's reused. None of the actual character art or anything in here is reused. Also got this cool bookmark while there. It says GenCon on it, Mind Flayer, and then it's got dice on the back. I thought this was kind of cool. Very vibrant, so I did get this. And I'm keeping it with the Player's Handbook so that as I read it, it's just there, whatever. But yeah, so with that, I'll open it up. If you guys have questions or anything you want to know, I will happily let you know. So feel free to post them in the chat if you've got some questions. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to come up with those. But oh man, GenCon was great. Oh, I did get the Gemhammer Games guys that were set up with my friend Randall. They gave me this card. I had to pull out of a deck of cards and ended up winning this. So this is a Wall Builder's Hammer. The price is 37,000 GP. The aura is Faint Evocation. This +1 light hammer is inlaid with 4 distinct gemstones. The wielder can speak a command word and strike the ground to cast either Wall of Stone, Wall of Fire, Wind Wall, or Wall of Ice. When each is used, its corresponding gemstone loses its sheen and appears duller. The gemstones recharge every 7 days. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. I love magic items, and so that was awesome to have. But anyways, it looks like nobody has any questions, so I am going to end the stream right there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We will be doing more videos this week. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure the next one up will be my general thoughts on the Player's Handbook. So hit that subscribe button And you can then see that when that comes out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Game on.